And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Aquarium, which has great art, cute fish. It's a game about building an aquarium and getting fish and keeping those fish alive. In real life, I have failed pretty miserably at keeping fish alive in the past, but I do like aquariums and I love the theme of this game. This game came out several years ago in Europe, but it is now here in America, brought by F2Z/Z-Man Games. Let's take a look at how it plays. In this game, you're trying to collect fish. Fish are going to come in different colors and star sizes. And you'll start with a random 1-star fish. And at the end of the game, each fish is going to be worth points that are on the stars. So a 3-star fish would be worth 3 points. Also, players will be getting bonuses at the end of the game. If you have like one of each of the 4 colors, 1-star fish, you'll get a bonus 4 points. If you have all the 3-star fish, you'll get 12. If you have a 1, 2, and 3 of the yellow fish, you'll get an extra 3 points. And players will also get bonus points for how many different types of plants they have. So how do you do this? Each player is going to get a deck of Phase 1, Phase 2 cards here in your hand. And then players, on your turn, if there's no fish out there, you flip one over. So there's a 3 pink fish there available. You then can either decide to buy the fish or you can pass. If you pass, you get 2 money. So getting money is important in this game, so you can pass and take money or buy. And then the next person, if you pass, you'll add another fish there. So let's say the next person decides to buy. They say, I'm going to buy these 2 cards. Now these 2 cards are going to cost 4. The price is here at the bottom. However, each other player is going to play a Phase 1 card face down and reveal it, and then a Phase 2 card face down. When they play these cards, they're discarded unless they play the pass card, which can be played in both phases, and you can keep playing this one over and over again. The cards are going to affect what happens. In the Phase 1, it could, if someone plays this card, they would actually add another card. So now you might be paying more than you expected. You can also get rid of a fish card. So you can say, oh, you're not getting that fish, that's gone. Or they can replace a fish card from their hand in front of them. I might say, hey, well, before we do this, I'm going to take one of those fish and put one of my fish there. And then there's a card that gets rid of a fish and replaces it with the top one from the deck. After everyone's done playing their Phase 1 cards, we then play the Phase 2 cards where you're going to affect the price. You can lower the total price for the player, which gives you a coin. You can raise the price by 1 for the player, just being a jerk, essentially. You can double the price for the player, again, being a jerk. You can half the price for the player, but then it comes to you. And if multiple people play these half cards, it's really reduced and you have to split the money between you. And it even shows you down here, first you do the plus or minus 1s, then the times 2, then you do the halving cards. When all this is done, the player will buy the cards if they can still afford them or want to pay that price. They don't have to. If they don't have to, it turns over and it goes to the next player. If they do, they buy all the cards and we go to the next player's turn and we keep doing it. Now plants, you can see, are very expensive. Plants are either 6, 10, or 8, and they're not worth a lot of points. So what's good about a plant? Well, at different points in the game, a feeding card is going to show up. And there's either 3 or 4 feeding cards in the deck, depending on the number of players. When the last feeding card shows up, after you're done feeding your fish, then the game ends. Here's the deal. When the feeding card comes up, you have to feed each of your fish. How much do you have to feed them? Well, you'll draw one of these 4 cards here, and it will either be 1, 2, or 3 per star. So if I draw 3, this fish is going to cost 9 coins to feed them. That's pretty expensive, but each plant you have makes it so you don't have to feed one fish. You pick. If you can't feed your fish, you discard them. So plants are very useful for keeping your fish alive. At the end of the game, when you do final scoring, if you don't feed the fish, they're gone and you can't score for them. So plants are good for that. So that's basically the basic game. Most points wins. If you want to play a medium game, you add in these fish in the deck. These are worth not very many points at the end of the game. They're worth 1. They don't combine for bonuses, but every time you pass, you get an extra coin from the bank, so that's great. Then you can also play with wild fish. Each player will start with these. These count as 2 stars, and there's a size 1 fish of any color. And you can also decide that you are going to, if you get 2 fish that are exactly the same, instead of scoring for them, you can basically breed them. And every turn, they will give you that many coins based on the number of stars. But they have to be the exact same, basically, you're selling, which can get you a lot of money, but you're giving up points to do so. thing about this game is the artwork and how the game looks is not how the game plays. You look at it, you're like, oh, it's a light kids game. It's not really either of those. This game is, first of all, very vicious. I mean, really vicious. If you don't like conflict, you don't want to play this because you are constantly playing cards that mess over other players deliberately. And it's a heavier game. You're sitting there and you're saying, okay, I multiply this times this times this. There's a lot more going on than people think. So I think the artwork almost doesn't match the theme. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think people are going to be fooled. They're like, woo, what kind of light fish game is this? Oh, it's not that at all. Now, for me, the idea of the game is great. I love the idea of, hey, buy fish or pass and get money. That's a cool concept. And the playing cards, the mess with the prices, also a cool concept. My biggest problem with this, and this is what the game is merely an okay for me. And I think I would have liked it, but it comes down to the fiddliness of every time someone wants to buy a card or cards, everyone plays not one round of cards, but two. And you would be surprised how that slows the game down. Like, I'm going to buy cards. Okay, everyone, play your phase one card. All right, I'll play this one. All right, reveal phase one cards. All right, this happens. All right, now everyone play phase two cards. All right, we play our phase two cards. Now this happens. All right, you buy or not buy? Okay, great. Next player. I'm going to buy cards. Well, here we go again. And when the feeding card comes up, you get your cards back in your hand so you can play them again. And since the feeding cards are spaced out just about right, you don't have to sit there and go, I don't want to play this card. You can play almost all the cards in your hand and get them all back. It's a question of when you play the card, but it's not like, I'm going to pass all the time. No, you'll pass sometimes. But if someone's buying one fish is gone now. You don't get a fish. Well, that was a lot of fun. And when do you add a fish? When they're already buying three and you're going to make the price more and then you double it. That doubling and halving, I mean, sometimes it just works out really well for if I half the price of the fish and someone else doubles them, great. I'm getting full price for the fish paid to me. That could be a game-ending event in a sense because I got a lot of money on one turn. But if two people play the half cards at the same time, we're both getting a whole lot of just a little, and the guy who bought the fish is like, thank you guys. So I do like that concept. It's just that phase itself kind of slows the game down, and then sometimes it's just very unsatisfying. At the end of the game, the points weren't nearly as great, and then this game, for some reason, adds one of my least favorite mechanisms of the game, the whole feed your people thing, which in this game is really, really random. It's going to be 1 to 3 per star, and if you pay 3 per star, that's a huge difference than 1 per star. Let's say I have 9 stars. The difference between owing 27 and owing 9 is immense, and you could kill a whole bunch of your fish, which kind of invalidates a good chunk of the game that you've played up to that point. So while I like the basic concepts and I didn't hate the game, it's okay. The fact that that feed your fish thing, I hate that, and the card play just really slowing the game down, really would put this one on a pass for me because it just it feels like it should be lighter than it is. It feels like it should be fun than it is. And there are some great moments like, this was the moment you doubled it. Are you kidding me? Or, yeah, I played the half card at the right point. There is some cool things like that, but for the most part, if you fall behind and you run out of money for whatever reason, you'll spend several turns passing, which is not that interesting and exciting. And by the way, you should definitely play with the advanced game. Play with the rainbow fish. Play with the fish that give you money. You should play with all that stuff. I don't see why you wouldn't. Kind of a ho-hum thing. I just don't think the whole package played out as well as I think it could have, and that is Aquarium. Dice Tower Judgment, okay, but a little too fiddly for my taste.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!